In Houston and Harris County, food insecurity is a major challenge. Nearly 39% of households face food shortages, which is much higher than the national average of 14%. This means that in almost 4 out of every 10 families, there is no regular access to sufficient and nutritious food. This rate is nearly 3 times the national average, reflecting the struggles in the standard of living and economic stability of the local population. These statistics show that food insecurity is not just an individual problem, but a broader social and economic issue. The main cause of food insecurity in Houston and Harris County is economic hardship. In other words, although food is available in the market, many families cannot afford to buy it due to financial difficulties. In particular, housing costs and rental pressures push many families into financial crisis. In such situations, securing a place to live becomes the primary goal, leaving insufficient money for food. This shows the close link between food insecurity and poverty, where the high cost of housing has a direct impact on a family's ability to maintain food security. In Harris County, the poverty rate is very high, and many families are unable to secure their daily meals. This problem affects not only access to food, but also the overall quality of life for these families. Research shows that food insecurity is not just a reflection of poverty, but also has negative impacts on health, education, and mental well-being. For children and the elderly, food insecurity is especially dangerous, as it directly affects their physical and mental development. This shows the close link between food insecurity and poverty, where the high cost of housing has a direct impact on a family's ability to maintain food security. A study was conducted in healthcare centers across Harris County to monitor food security, which revealed the true picture of local food shortages. The research showed that many people receiving healthcare services face food insecurity, which weakens their overall well-being and immune system. In other words, food insecurity is a health risk, creating significant barriers to long-term treatment and recovery. This shows the close link between food insecurity and poverty, where the high cost of housing has a direct impact on a family's ability to maintain food security. In Texas, the average rate of food insecurity is about 16.4%, which is slightly higher than the national average of 13.5%. In Harris County, the rate is around 16.4%, similar to the state average. However, the statistics showing that 39% of households in Houston, divided by Harris County, experience food insecurity highlights that the problem is far more severe in certain areas and among specific populations. This disparity reflects underlying local economic inequalities and social challenges. To improve food security in Houston, divided by Harris County, it is essential to provide economic assistance, control housing costs, and expand local food banks and food distribution programs. Through joint efforts of the government and NGOs, support can be provided to poor and food insecure families, helping to improve their standard of living. In the long term, addressing the root causes of poverty and food insecurity will require better education, increased employment opportunities, and strong social safety policies. This disparity reflects underlying local economic inequalities and social challenges. In Houston, divided by Harris County, food insecurity and poverty are serious issues that turn daily life into a constant challenge for local residents. Nearly 39% of households face food insecurity here, which is significantly higher than the national average. This reality has been shaped by the local economic crisis, high housing costs, and social inequality. As a result, many families are unable to afford nutritious food. Children and the elderly, in particular, suffer the most from these conditions. Economic hardship and high housing rents serve as major causes, consuming a large portion of household budgets. As a result, families are left with insufficient money to purchase food. In this situation, both the physical and mental health of families are put at risk. Food insecurity hinders children's development and weakens the immune systems of the elderly. Even healthcare facilities have identified food insecurity as a major challenge. In Harris County, the rates of poverty and food insecurity are equal to or higher than the state average. In certain areas of Houston, the problem is even more severe. This inequality reflects deeper local economic and social issues that hinder the overall well-being and development of the community. To ensure food security, local government and NGOs must work together to provide economic assistance to low-income families, expand food banks, and regulate housing costs. In the long term, increasing access to education and employment opportunities, along with adopting stronger social safety policies, can help address the root causes of poverty and food insecurity. Currently, nearly 39% of households face food insecurity, much higher than the national average. In other words, about 4 out of every 10 families do not have regular access to sufficient and nutritious food. This situation directly impacts the quality of life for local residents. Economic hardship, high housing costs, and social inequality are the primary causes. Many families spend so much on rent that little remains for food, leaving them deprived of nutritious meals. Poverty-driven food insecurity harms both children and the elderly, negatively affecting their physical and mental development. The lack of food security also impacts the local healthcare system, as it contributes to weaker immune systems and long-term health risks. Across Texas, the average food insecurity rate is about 16.4%, a level that is also reflected in Harris County. However, in some neighborhoods of Houston, the rate is much higher, highlighting the consequences of local economic inequality. Joint initiatives by local government and NGOs are essential to provide financial support, food banks, and affordable housing options for vulnerable families. At the same time, long-term strategies such as expanding education and employment opportunities are key to reducing poverty and food insecurity.